The Unrelating podcasts are meant to be for education and entertainment. They don't constitute a service or advice. For personal struggles, please reach out to a medical or mental health professional.
So, Michelle, if you're sitting there and you've had a rough day at the office or at home, wherever you're working, and you're feeling stressed out, the kids are driving you crazy, your husband's driving you crazy, what's your go-to, or do you have a go-to food for stress eating?
I do. I would say I definitely use food as a coping mechanism, not just as something to put in my body. I'm trying to think of which food. Maybe not so much a particular food, but my go-to is alternating between sweet, then salty, then sweet, then salty, and just having that pattern of eating, especially late at night. And late at night is when I am trying to decompress and de-stress. So I feel like I have connected having these, I don't want to call them treats, but having these foods late at night when I'm unwinding is connected to feeling better.
Yeah. So sweet would be like ice cream, or salty would be like chips. I'm trying to think of what that would look like.
Yeah, I eat a lot of popcorn for my salty, or olives, or things that just really are salty, so that there's no confusion in my brain.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned popcorn, because actually that's my go-to at night. And I wouldn't even call it stress eating. It's just snacking. But I've now pivot to popcorn, which actually has a lot of fiber, which is good. They say if you're going to snack on something at night, popcorn's a good choice. But it does have salt, low cal though, which is good.
Yeah, and it's not even that, I'm eating a pint of ice cream every night. You can still eat healthy stuff, but it's the why are you eating it? Am I just eating it because I eat in front when I'm watching my shows at night, or am I eating it because I am stressed and want to, comfort myself? There's just a lot of different reasons why we eat, and most of them aren't having to do with because we're hungry.
Speaking of, our guest today is going to help us answer that question: why we eat, what we eat, and how we eat. He's a health coach and a chiropractor, but he is an expert on healthy eating and the psychology behind that. We're looking forward to talking to him.
Same. From what I understand, he's incredibly knowledgeable and passionate about the subject, and also has a personal connection to it. So we like that on the show.
Welcome to Unrelating with Kel and Michelle, and I'm one of your hosts, Kelly. With me is my co-host, Michelle, a licensed marriage and family therapist who's been providing individual and couples therapy for over 2 decades. Together, we'll explore how we engage in relationships, why we do what we do, and what causes people to unrelate. Let me just introduce you, Christian, joining us today. Dr. Christian Milton, is that appropriate?
Yeah, that's, I'm not very formal. A lot of people call me Dr. M, because that's what we do here in America, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
That's my nickname, Dr. M.
Dr. Christian Middleton, or Dr. M, as his patients call him. He brings a wealth of expertise, combining a background in psychology, nutrition, and chiropractic care to deliver a comprehensive, holistic approach to health and wellness. You're the owner of Viking Health, a holistic weight loss and wellness center, and you're a health coach and chiropractor. Dr. M, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Wow, you just made me feel so successful. Thank you.
It's all true, Christian.
Nice to be here.
Full disclosure, Christian and I know each other. We've been friends for quite a while, 20 years.
Okay.
25 years. I think 2000 was when we met.
Yeah, we started hanging out as teenagers.
Yeah. So I may let some little inside, secrets slip periodically.
Well, I think that's the balance, right? It's Christian's an expert, or Dr. M's an expert, but he's also a human that, has a personal connection to what he's talking about.
I'm very human and very, very vulnerable, and I have a very personal connection to the things I do, which is now focusing on helping people optimize their health using natural methods.
I've worked with you, previously because of your chiropractic work when I had back issues and neck issues. So I can speak to that and how great you were dealing with clients. And then you've since pivoted, you've added holistic and wellness into your practice.
I was raised in a very kind of a natural, simple village, maybe the size of Big Bear in Norway. So things were simpler and things were, in essence, lifestyle was more natural. And I was always interested in health and the body, and not to go too much into it. But what first brought me in the direction of chiropractic was I suffered from a lot of back pain as a teenager. It set me back. I tried all kinds of healthcare practitioners, and of all of them, there was a chiropractor that was very helpful, and he helped me turn my life around. I tried many different ones that weren't all great, but this the way this guy practiced. He took his time with me, and it wasn't an assembly line type of practice. I over time molded my practice a little bit after his, and that's what put me in the direction of healthcare and making that a profession. And within the chiropractic education, you have also a lot of nutrition, and you have actually currently more anatomy in your program than a medical doctor has. So it's a pretty complete program, but my focus and my appreciations was also always for what you can achieve with your body naturally before you go to, yes, there's great technological and medicinal advancements and antibiotics and what have you, and pills and surgeries and injections. And they all have their time and place. We live in a culture, I think everyone knows, where that tends to be the go-to, and people tend to ignore the body's natural healing process. And so my philosophy is first, if you really truly appreciate this amazing entity that your body is, that AI will never even get close to touch. Just the time we connect now, it's been performing trillions of enzymatic reaction to perfection for us to be able to sit here and have this thing called life. And if you respect that a bit, it's amazing what the body can do for you. And if there are issues that are beyond what the body can do, then go to the invasive, but not before. Don't make it a financial shortcut. That's basically my message. Honor your body first and use natural methods first. And when you do, it's quite amazing what you can achieve without any side effect. What I found when it comes to your overall health, what is so much more important is your internal health. And about 15 years ago, I helped a person turn around their life and get off all their blood pressure medication, and just the joy and the return to feeling normal and getting her out of fear of dying and taking lots of pills. Just watching that turnaround in her triggered me to really focus and go in this direction. That's what I've done for the last 15 years.
I imagine she had to work for that, but we're in a culture that's quick fix and low effort. So give me the fastest solution and the thing where I have to do the least amount of work. I wonder how you approach that psychologically when someone has that obstacle where that they could be helped by this, but they're like, nope, it's too much. It's too much for me.
Okay, so this was also before Ozempic.
Right, we were already there, and then we got this. Quick
right.
fix
So this before, so this is a semaglutide. Yeah. It's ultimately just a peptide that the body actually makes in natural amounts when it should be making it. So it was before that was so prevalent and used as a shortcut, if you will. This woman was a little hypochondriac, like I think most of us can be. Once we feel some symptoms, we go often start Googling and now chat GPTing and you start, I have this, I have that, I'm going down. So she was afraid of for her life, basically, because her blood pressure was really high even while on the medication. So when she had done this program with me, I put her on at the time a simplified version of what I do now, and she lost some 35 pounds in about 6 to 8 weeks. That made a huge difference because she came to me at the time and she said, if I lose weight, will my blood pressure go down? And even from my nutritional training at the time, I knew that in most cases, not 100%, but probably more than 90% of the cases, your weight, if you carry a lot of excess weight, it does impact your blood pressure. So I told her, if you lose 100 pounds, because you need to lose 100 pounds to really get into healthy zones, I'd be surprised if your blood pressure doesn't improve. So I designed a little program for her, and yes, it's low calories, but it was relatively rapid. 35 pounds in 6 to 8 weeks is pretty rapid. And when she went to her doctor and he was surprised what had happened, he asked her, what have you done? She was embarrassed to say she'd been on diet. So she said, I've just been doing some exercise there. And he sits her down and basically tells her, well, as of now, your blood pressure is normal. You can come off all your meds. You just got to keep doing those exercises for the rest of your life. So when she comes back to me, she relays this experience at the doctor's office, and she gives me a hug, and she's in tears. And that's the moment where I'm like, this is what people need. I mean, I've been fixing people. Been getting them out of back pain, neck pain, and all of that for already a decade. But I've never had this type of a rewarding experience where a patient's life feels like she's turned her life around.
Yeah, now, you probably saved her life, probably,
Yeah, she felt like it. And, now having done this with thousands of people, it's so much more. It's everything. It's everything. It's your outlook on the future. Can you be there with your grandkids? Can your joints function? Do I have to walk around and worry about, having a heart attack, getting cancer, getting diabetes? I'm on this amount of pills. I am this age now, so I can't do this. I don't like how I look in the mirror. I have digestive issues. I'm depressed about how I look. I'm chemically depressed. I mean, when people clean up their act and align themselves with nature and stop giving the body a bunch of excess burden, it impacts every little aspect of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, we focus a lot on the scale and fitting a new dress and someone saying, well, you look good now. Did you lose weight or something? Well, there's so much more that's happening under the skin and to your brain chemistry and to your longevity and to your inflammatory markers. And pretty much when you go from being inflamed, unhealthy, with a metabolic syndrome, and you go into healthy, there's really no side effects. Every aspect of your life improves, even your mood and your brain chemistry and your productivity. So it's very rewarding to do what I'm doing. So when people come in, they're like looking at, oh yeah, I lost so and so many pounds and this and that. And am I losing as much as I should? They're worried about all of that. And I'm like, how do you feel? Let's talk about your NSV, your non-scale victories.
When you think about it, Christian, with the Western diet and the rise in diabetes and cancers, like you mentioned, I mean, it's an epidemic in America and maybe throughout a lot of Western societies. So what do you tell your patients, or how do you counsel them as far as their approach to eating healthy?
I try to have them just connect with their common sense. Let's take a moment and honor your body.
Mm-hmm.
And the most important vessels that you're going to have for the rest of your life, much more important than your car. So you want to maintain anything and take care of it because you're not going to get a new lease or a new one. Let's take care of that. And let me just give you some examples of what your body is doing for you every split second.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll start with your heart. How often do you think about your heart? Your heart,
Yep.
Every time it does that, it squeezes with about the same amount of force as if you're trying to squeeze a tennis ball flat.
Wow.
If I tried to do that just in the time we've been talking, my wrist would already be aching.
Yeah.
We take that for granted.
Mm-hmm.
It does that every second, every minute, every hour, every day. It does not take a nap and rest at night when your brain is trying to rest. It never goes on vacation nonstop, about 35 million times a year. For the average lifespan, it pumps 2.5 billion gallons of blood, because that blood needs to transmit your glucose and your energy every split second. And that blood has to travel 60,000 miles in your body because we have lots of little capillaries, 60,000 miles to deliver constant oxygen and nutrients to every single cell in your body. It's doing all that work, and we take it for granted. And that's why cardiac disease is still the number one killer.
Mm-hmm. Think about that. Think about that.
Think about that for real. Now, and here's the thing. When you carry excess weight, especially organ fat, eventually it causes narrowing of your arteries, plaquing. So those openings the blood is supposed to travel through are now smaller. You still need to deliver that oxygen and glucose at the same frequency. You can't suddenly have a delayed delivery because it's harder to get through and get the blood there and get the oxygen there. So what the heart does, it pumps harder to power through the resistance. That's how your blood pressure goes up. And then for every pound of fat, you also add approximately additional 7 miles of vessels for the blood to travel, because that fat has to also be kept alive and innervated by blood. So with a bunch of excess weight, you're not considering what you're doing to your heart, why you just want to feel good in your head because you're overeating, because you're addicted to food. But my main point when patients come to me, it's not your fault. That's ridiculous. That's what some of the makers in this country want us to think. It's all personal responsibility.
Whose fault?
It's greed. It's business greed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at a picture from like 100 years ago in the middle of New York. You hardly see an overweight person. You take a picture now, most people are overweight or obese, right? I've seen these comparisons. That's not because what happened? The Americans suddenly got a much weaker character, or everyone suddenly out of the blue developed a fat gene. No. It's basically businessmen and scientists preying on our survival instincts, which basically says we all want the most amount of pleasure with the least amount of effort. That is a survival instinct in an atmosphere where you hardly have the chance to get any kind of comfort or dopamine release. The pursuit of food and sex is what helped us, survive as a species.
Mm-hmm.
Now these instincts stay with us. It's in our DNA, and they're being preyed upon because we can't control ourselves when it's so available all the time. And not getting into food, not only is it available, I mean, most of the food that's out there, it's not designed to give you the cleanest, most nutritious type of substance. It's intentionally designed for you to buy more of it. So the companies who make it make more money. And to do that, they know how the brain works. They try to hit something called a bliss point. So they create the ultimate combination of fat and sugar and salt and other chemicals that release a bunch of dopamine, and we crave that.
Yeah.
It's called the bliss point, right? So we walk into this atmosphere, this store, the grocery store, our feeding place, and we're being tricked. You have to walk through aisles and aisles and aisles of literally food-like substances that are addictive, and that's intentional, and they make us sick. So now there's a second racket to make money of the chronic disease. I mean, that's the root cause. This whole thing, like suddenly now the solution to get America healthy again is to prick yourself with a needle every week, constantly. Because what, we're so flawed now as human beings, our health is so flawed that's what we have to do now. I mean, that's when I say, like, use your common sense. What do you think the issue is? Europeans that come here and they feel like they're eating the same food. And Europe is not perfect either, because we spread some of these food policies everywhere. But they come here and they live here for a year and they gain 30 pounds feeling like they're eating the same amount. Did their character just get so much weaker because they moved within the confines of the United States? No, let's have the people actually who are responsible take responsibility. But it's hard to do because it's so embedded into our economy right now.
Yeah.
But that's really what it is. So the first sentence I generally tell my patients, all right, don't feel bad about being overweight. It's not your fault. You don't have a weak personality. Actually, you're a survivor. It means every time there's food available, you'll eat it because you would in a natural environment. And the denser it is in calories, the more you'll have of it, because it gives you more dopamine release, which enables you to store more food for the future, when there will always be periods when there's nothing to go around.
Yeah.
That's what it's for. That's what, the fat is not some disgusting punishment from God or anyone for being a glutton. None of us would be here without our ability to store extra energy in times of abundance, and we store it in this compact form called fat.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason we can store it is so you can eat it in times when there's nothing to go around. So that's what I tell my patients. Basically, you're now going to eat your fat. That's what you're going to do. Obviously, not through your mouth. You're not going to start biting your arm or anything. But internally, you're going to eat your fat. You're going to live of it. That's why it's there.
Yeah, it all makes so much sense logistically, but also psychologically. Letting someone know it's not their fault is powerful, because, and I love this because our shows overlap so much, but we had a show about shame. And especially when we're talking about weight and physical appearance, there's a lot of shame attached to that. That's a reason some people don't reach out for help. They wouldn't come to you because they think they're going to get judged for being obese. And then I'm hearing all these cognitive distortions too, Kelly, which is a callback to a different show we did, which is, denial and
Yeah.
blaming and all of these things. So there's just a lot of factors, but I like how you distill just the very kind of physical, organic, logistical piece to it.
The fact that you can empower people, right? They come into your office and you are empowering them, giving them the facts. This is what happened. This is where you are. You have the power now to change your life, right?
Yeah.
And don't worry about what happened before. Okay, you're in my office now. So ultimately, it's changing their. I would imagine, Christian, for you, it's like changing their attitudes about food and
Yeah.
building back their self confidence.
I haven't necessarily used that term, but I like it. Just forget about what happened before. I mean, obviously, there's good things you can learn from what happened before, but as far as that whole shame thing, so what I just explained about the whole thing, that fat is not like something disgusting, and you're not a weak person for having stored extra fuel storage. I say little things to them to understand that fat is precious fuel, and also I don't like this idea that you call people fat, because in essence it's just fuel storage. So why would you attach that to a person's identity? You could say that you carry an excess amount of fuel storage on your body, and that's wearing on your health and your life quality. But if you're going to call people fat, then you could call a bodybuilder protein. I mean, why are you announcing what they have, right? So I try to reframe a lot of their misconceptions. I also try to help them understand how a lot of the generic government guidelines we're given are not really helpful when you already have insulin resistance, which most of us do have, and just reframe a lot of these misconceptions of it's all about your blood type, or it's all about your hormones, or it's all about how much you walk, or what you eat, or instinctive eating, or it's all about this and that. I mean, all of them affect you. But let's look at what's the biggest issue in your life, because there are some common denominators for being healthy. Eat real food, move more, and eat less. It's that simple. We overcomplicate it. And so one of the things I'll tell patients when when they come in here, and I want to stress and get that through, that there's no reason to feel guilty about that. I mean, I will often bring myself in as an example. You touched on it. I've been a big sugarholic because I didn't know. And who doesn't want pleasure? I want pleasure like everyone else. And of anything that I've felt an addiction to, there's nothing I've struggled with as much as sugar, like a complete crack addict. And in relationships and family, that'll always feel like it's cute and treated like it's kind of just silly. And I'm like, no, this is actually a problem for me. Can you please not stuff the fridge and the cabinets with cake and chocolate chip cookies, because I can't control myself? And they'll just, oh, it's not a drug. No, it is a drug. It is a drug by every definition of what a drug is, and it's put into 80% of our product. So what I often tell patients when they come to me with this feeling of maybe guilt or wondering how it happened, it's like, okay, here's the deal. Our environment is so unnatural for what we're built for. It's so unnatural that in order for you to be healthy, you're going to have to spend what feels like an unnatural amount of time thinking about what you eat. The bottom line, you lived in nature, pretty much most things are healthy, good for you.
Yeah.
My job is to prove to you that it's worth doing exactly that, because everything in your life improves when you operate with optimal health. So it does require work. That's just the reality. There's no way to go around that. If you eat instinctively whenever you want, what you feel like, what's convenient in this culture, you'll end up like a statistic and make a lot of money for the big corporations. That's it.
Yeah, and I feel like in the same vein, we're not taking care of ourselves emotionally and psychologically either. And so a lot of emotional eating, which is just, when you eat in reaction to some feeling, that's happening more. And when you have that 24-hour availability and that strong connection between pleasure and sugar, if someone is bored, if someone is sad, if someone is celebrating something, all of these feelings are attached to, this is going to give me pleasure if I consume this, instead of doing the work psychologically, replacing it with something, a better coping mechanism.
100%. That's the culture. We're being told you should never feel uncomfortable.
Mhm.
It's if you feel stressed, if you feel lonely, if you feel bored, if you feel anxiety, something's wrong. Let's get rid of that feeling fast.
Yep.
Right? That's what we're, so it goes in both ways. It's the mental part. You can say that Instagram and social media is is the junk of that world as junk food is of the other world, right? It's same thing. It's this constant escape from how you actually feel by artificially paying to get constant dopamine kicks. And that comes with a downside both mentally and physically. You know, we're we're almost in a culture where we've been told that you indirectly you shouldn't feel uncomfortable. I'll tell you this, if you're not uncomfortable at some level every single day, you're supposed to feel some hunger. You're supposed to feel some physical effort, whether that is, in our case, artificially working out, but in a natural environment, it may be fleeing from something or trying to catch something. We would have to deal with temperature changes all the time. Now we've turned that into a trendy thing. Ice baths, saunas, dealing with extreme temperatures, cold or hot or cold, is something that in short periods is actually good for us. It triggers something called hormesis. It strengthens your body. If you comfort yourself mentally and physically all day long, every day, you're both mentally and physically deteriorating. But it's possible to do that today because you can buy it.
Yeah.
And it's been normalized and made available for everyone. So when you live in an environment also where we know, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I think it got a little bit accelerated with the COVID, but started long before. The social structure has changed. There's less intimate community. There's more individuality. People are more distant from each other. There's less real looking people. I mean, all studies show that the time we spend on one and quality friendship time is just decreasing constantly every year. That decreases an inner life satisfaction. So you have more need for comfort. And then you got this thing called food. That's food. We need it. But we're not thinking that this food has actually been engineered to almost serve like a drug to numb those feelings. Well, I'm not doing a drug. I'm just having food and I need food. Don't take my food away from me. We use food in this culture like a drug because that's what it is. When you use food to change your headspace, and by that I mean you use food because you've had a long day and you feel you deserve it. You're lonely, you're stressed, you're depressed. You're basically using food to change your headspace. You're using food as a drug.
Yeah, I believe that. So, based on the idea of creating discomfort, would you actually recommend that to people that they live in a world where they introduce more, maybe discomfort's the wrong word, but whatever that
Yeah.
word is.
So here's the thing. Dopamine feels good. It's a pleasure experience, right? And then there's another neurotransmitter called serotonin, which, when you have healthy levels of that, it's easier to feel content in life, feel good. Sometimes maybe consider kind of like the happiness neurotransmitter. But the thing is, every time you artificially ding your dopamine, you slightly suppress the serotonin. And if you keep dinging your dopamine a lot artificially more frequent than what normally would naturally be possible, you keep suppressing your baseline serotonin levels. So if you take away this artificial dopamine, now you feel low. Your mood is lower. You maybe even feel a bit depressed. So it almost triggers this where you become addicted to these dopamine hits, whether it's through, social media, ding, 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 notifications, or through food, or both of them. So when I say be uncomfortable, I'm not talking about like try to hurt yourself. I'm talking normal lifestyle, slight discomfort that we would have all the time. Like allow yourself to feel hungry every day before you eat. Once in a while, fast a bit. Allow yourself to feel hungry. When you really want to just plump down in the couch and have a dopamine food-like substance and be comfortable and kick back, no. Go for a walk because it's not painful, but it's less comfortable than sitting in the recliner. Go push yourself a little bit in the gym. Do something that requires you to power through that's slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Deal with a little bit of temperature changes. And when I say make yourself uncomfortable. It's not like sit there and do some weird masochistic thing. It's just normal things that would happen in a more natural environment.
Also, letting yourself have the feelings that we label as negative, but are not negative feelings. So sitting in the discomfort of feeling sad or lonely,
Mm-hmm.
that's not
Exactly.
comfortable, and yet it's manageable. You can get through that, but we don't let
Um,
ourselves sit in that space.
100%. All of that. Bored, all of it. Lonely, bored, all of it. Because if you never do that, there's also this, you can't feel the contrast, and you won't have the same depth of appreciation for when you have the other feeling.
Right.
Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you have been lonely for a bit, and you've been in that, you know, because periods of a day or maybe periods of your life, it's not as full of that genuine connectivity with people. And then when you have it with someone or friends, you appreciate it more, and you realize the need you have for it. Or if you're, if you're bored, allow yourself to feel bored, and then appreciate the times that you're stimulated and excited. Don't, like, if you're bored and you're sitting there and you had a long day and you just have nothing going on, and don't want to feel, I don't know, like lonely and sort of bored, uncomfortable feeling, and you immediately reach for the phone and just start scrolling and searching to get rid of that feeling, right?
Yep.
Then that also dulls you and numbs you from making the effort to improve that aspect of your life. So in essence, we live in a culture now, you're numbing yourself emotionally. You never fully, I mean, I'm not, obviously, it's not like everyone is constantly numb. And there are people that live fuller lives, and they have moments of good quality, all of that. But there's just this overall tendency that this is more and more prevalent with more and more people. And I'm going to admit to it myself. I've done exactly the same thing myself. I still do sometimes. I have to catch myself doing it because, like I once, again, this is this social media world that's preying on the same thing. It's preying our need to seek comfort, and it's making it available. You just have to pay for it.
It's pathologizing variety in feelings. It's saying if you're not happy all the time, something must be wrong with you. You must not have something in your life. Variation is what helps you learn how to manage your feelings and regulate them and
For sure.
understand. And if you can't do that, then imagine how you are in a relationship with another person who also has
Exactly.
feelings. And
No, exactly. It's both. I'm focusing on the physical aspect of this, the health aspect, and the eating and being physically healthy. But it's mind over matter. And if you're not mentally healthy, it's very hard to generate the energy and the know-how, and to do what you need to do to take care of your physical body. It all starts with the mind, but it's the same in both worlds. It's that constant running away from any discomfort.
Christian, earlier you talk about addictive personality. You have one. I know I'm also addicted to sweets to a certain degree. Whenever my mother-in-law makes chocolate chip cookies, I just can't not have, 10 of them. But then I feel really sick. I feel really gross. But I do it again, you know?
Yeah.
So what do you say to your clients when they do have this addictive personality, especially when it comes to like sugary products?
I often use myself as an example because I struggled for so long. I mean, for most of my life, I didn't know how damaging sugar was. It was one of those things where, well, as long as you brush your teeth, you're fine. My dad is a dentist, so that's like what he would stress. And I'm like, I'm just going to brush my teeth and eat a ton more sugar than I'm allowed to because it makes me feel good. And didn't think about what else it does. But, now I'll talk to my dad, and sometimes he's like, oh, sugar's fine. It's okay. I'm like, well, Dad, you know what? If we didn't eat food without sugar, you wouldn't have had a profession. So here's the thing. If you ingest a substance that it starts rotting away your biology at the port of entrance, you kind of know it's not going to do anything good anywhere else either, because sugar literally impacts every single cell in your body negatively. Every single cell. It is the root cause of all our chronic diseases. The excess combined intake of processed carbohydrates and sugar, same thing. So when someone come in to me, I often, because they look at me, I'm relatively slim now, and I'm like, well, you can't relate to what it's like to have an issue with this or be overweight. I'm like, oh yeah, I can. For the longest time, big struggle. I'm the guy on like Jason Alexander and Seinfeld, and no joke, I would get a dozen donuts, I'd eat half of them, feel disgusting, throw them in the trash. 3 a.m., they're still on top. It's my trash. Go back in. That's an addiction. And people can laugh at that because they can relate, even if they haven't gone to that extreme. I'll tell them, you're a strong survivor. If you were in nature and you were nearby some substances that were calorie dense and gave you a lot of dopamine, you would be one of the first to it and fight for it, right? That's really what it is. The starting point is for them to understand what it does to the body. So I showed them images of what happens to the blood, like literally what happens to the molecule as soon as you're taking in sugar. You put that blood under the microscope, it's pretty scary. And then I'll show them all the other consequences, and I'll start kind of basic of what happens with sugar. So part of it is to understand that it's not as innocent as you think. There's a lot of education, but then it's also very much working with them. I have a program where they take out all the sugar for a while, and I have them pay attention to how much better they feel. So, if you suddenly feel like your mood is up, you're mentally energized, your weight's flying off, you don't have constant sluggishness, your cravings are fading, and you start feeling really good, right? Then instead of looking at it like, I wish I could have that sweet little pastry that's almost winking at me and it's so cute and it's got a little pink on it and everyone has it and children have it and we use it to celebrate and so sweet and so innocent and so nice. And why is life so unfair? Why can't that be healthy? Why can't I have that? I don't want to live a life that I have to keep depriving myself from these amazing pleasures that in it. So what I have people do, once they've done my program, they feel amazing, right? They feel amazing. They almost feel high on health. So then they'll go, they're human and I do, they'll go, they'll have suddenly slip a little bit. They'll have maybe some cookies and some ice cream and they'll have some sugar and processed. And pretty quick, you may feel a little bloated. You may feel a little swollen. You start feeling cravings coming back. Your energy will drop from the insulin spike you created. So you start getting all these like visceral symptoms that kind of, wow. I guess I didn't pay attention to this because I used to do this all the time before. I didn't connect the dots. So now, instead of looking at it like, I wish I could have this extra serving of ice cream or cake or whatever it is, and I'd hate living a life where I'm depriving myself. Look at it like I don't want to deprive myself from feeling good because that's what you're doing. Because it's very short term. Yes, while you put it in your mouth and you chew, there's a dopamine kick, but it's really quick, 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending on how clean you are. But it's pretty quick before you'll start feeling negative downsides. If you have a typical celebratory meal, highly processed, good amounts of American pizza, and you follow that up with some ice cream, give it an hour, versus you have a yummy salad with all kinds of things, not a born oils and different kinds of, maybe small piece of cheese, yummy salad, maybe a piece of salmon, which train your palate, you sort of rework your acquired taste so you enjoy that meal too. Give it an hour later and see in which situation you can live the life to fullest and how you feel.
I was just going to say that I can relate so much to that because a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed as celiac. And so I had to give up gluten. And I just lived my life with digestive issues. I thought that's just how you had to live. And when I gave it up and it was out of my body completely, now if I eat it, it's a disaster. It's so painful. It's 8 hours of a nightmare for me, and the recovery as well as a couple days. So now when I look at it, I feel deprived. I'm like, oh, I wish I could have that. But I don't wish I could have that more than, the consequence of having it.
Exactly.
And so that's hitting me because like if I could think of sugar that way, that'd be amazing too.
But it really isn't, and sugar does so much more damage than gluten to your body. But it really is that it's starting to pay attention to how you feel. So okay, I see you when I talk to patients. Okay, so I tell them the science and I show them these images of what's happening to their cells and their organs, but it's hidden and you don't see it. It's under the skin. But when you eat very clean and you pay attention to it and you fall off the wagon, if you will, and have like go all out with stuff. The way you feel at that point is what's going to help you keep eating healthy if you want to keep feeling good in life, because it's not just, yeah, obviously all the benefits long term of being healthier and being more productive and liking how you look and having a healthy weight. It's actually even how you feel within an hour after, or even a half hour after you ate it. But if
Mm-hmm.
you do this on a semi-regular basis, you don't notice that difference as much. But if you're really clean for a while and you do it, you can feel how that stuff hits your body, and you don't have to know any signs to know that, "Hmm, based on how I feel now, this is probably not good for me."
I think what you're talking about is really the antidote to temptation. Because I was just thinking that in my head. It's like when there's so much temptation 24 hours a day
Mhm.
available to you, it's
Mhm.
just psychologically hard to say no. But what you're talking about is the way to combat temptation, is to think about really what that's going to do to you and what the consequence is. And that would talk me down.
Yeah. And obviously, this is easier said than done. From the moment I knew about the same amount that I know now about what sugar does to the body, it's taken me probably a decade to get to where I'm now, where
Mm-hmm.
it's really a non-issue. But there's a lot of things that are involved with it. Part of it is, like I said, is education to understand what it does. Part of it is to pay attention to, like we talked about, Rena, how you feel and how much better you feel when you're without it, and then you can weigh up the pros and the cons sort of intellectually. And part of it is just behavioral training, where you create new automated behavior, i.e., habits. And initially they takes more effort until this behavior is automated and our habits. And I help patients with this. And when people are on my weight loss program, I also have a maintenance program afterward, which is longer, often for a year afterwards, where I continue with accountability. And now we work more on these behavior, because everyone's a little different. And some people use food, for certain emotional reasons. Others, it's just on autopilot, but they come home from work, what's what they do. And so we work individually on their specific life pattern, and how to start making a change in these behaviors. And standard one thing is, for any kind of automated behavior that you have that's not benefiting your life or your health, is you got to take away the cue. I mean, if I had a lot of ice cream and cake and constant sugar snacks within my fridge and my cabinets right now, I probably would still have a problem, because my DNA that wants the most amount of pleasure with the least amount of effort is never going to go away. Right. So I have days where I feel, funky and had a long day, and I'm like, and you just want something. But if it's there, I'm going to reach for it right away. But if I have to maybe go to the store and all of that, I might not do it. So that's number one. The cue's got to go temporarily for a while. That makes it a lot easier. I mean, there's some saying that says, it's easier to say no one time in the store than a million times at home. The next thing is, you then might want to find alternatives that have less of a negative consequence to help if you want to switch your headspace, whether that is having another food source that also gives some comfort, but it's less damaging. Generic example, if you're used to having ice cream at a certain point at night because you want to feel comfortable at the end of the night, and initially your switch is maybe you have some low-fat yogurt with some blueberries, that will still give you some comfort, even though it's not ideal to eat right before you go to bed. But if you're having that versus ice cream, you're improving. And then other substitutes would be that you just find other ways, other activities to switch your headspace. And when you start doing this, it requires effort initially. But when you do this over time, that starts becoming second nature. And then
Mm-hmm.
that's your new behavior and your new habit. And then, this line about, to be healthy, you have to spend what feels an unnatural amount of energy. Over time, it's less energy, because it becomes a little bit just how you are, how you roll. You don't think about it so much anymore, because this is just your new habit. So, but it takes time and it takes work. And my goal is to prove to you that it's worth doing the work.
What do you counsel your patients when they come in, assuming they have weight issues, and there's a certain level of self-loathing or self-hate when they look at
Mm,
themselves in the mirror?
mm.
What do you say to them, or how do they? Because I got to imagine that's a big hump to get over mentally.
I tell them, you're so beautiful. No, but I do. I mean, I'd say it like that. I'm joking a little bit, but really, because I guess I naturally actually have a pretty good. I don't know, nothing I've actually trained consciously. I find something positive about someone. That's what I look for, and I see immediately. And I tend to compliment people. And it's not fake;
Mhm.
it's real. Whether it may be a physical attribute, your beautiful area, this, or overall, if they feel really bad that they're so big, I'll make a comparison to something that could be worse, or look at what's really good, or like, okay, so you're maybe pre-diabetic, but you're not full-blown diabetic, or you know I have other patients that have 100 pounds to go to get to where you're at, even, and regardless, um the good news is that I actually look at I have them kind of look at it like this is a cool thing, because
Okay.
you can go through a process there for a while where you're going to constantly feel better. It's exciting.
Hmm.
Weight loss is
Yeah.
exciting. Like, maintaining weight is not that exciting because you have to keep paying attention. Nothing changes. But if you're like, 35, 55, 60, or whatever, and you've really been struggling with excess weight and a lot of the downsides that come with that. And at this point in life, you've tried all the big things. You've tried the independence of being an adult and having the freedom to do what you want. You probably have already, maybe most likely, have had sex. You may have tried marriage. Maybe you're still married. You've traveled. You've done a lot of these big, considered highlights of what's considered a successful life. There are very few things that you can do that you have personal control over that can be as impactful in a positive direction at every aspect of your life as take control over your health and get to healthy weight. And it's a cool, exciting thing. I mean, that's why I get joy out of it. I get people to walk in my door every day with this increased joy and excitement of life, not just because they look better and feel better and get confidence, because they finally feel like they're in control and they're like, wow, this actually does work. This natural stuff actually does work. I've been told that I can because I'm peri or postmenopausal and my hormones, or I have a fat gene and it's not going to work. I need to take. No, actually, the body works the way it's supposed, and they're excited to have that
Hmm.
experience. And
Yeah.
so when they come in, if they're a little bogged down, or in some cases, maybe they think this is not possible for them, or like you said, they feel bad about themselves. The first session I have with them, it's kind of like when they question, what can happen? I tell them, you can get to anywhere you want. And yes, it is discipline. You're not going to be able to do this just being comfortable all the time, but it's possible. And then
Yeah.
when they question it again, I will joking like, let me see your wrist. And I try to pinch it, and just to see if it looks like they're electronic or something, they're metal robot person. Oh, you're not a bionic woman. Well, then 100% for sure I can get you to wherever you want. And so I know I can get them to where I want, but I need to transfer that belief to them. And that's often what happens in that first session.
Yeah. Empowering them.
Yeah,
Right,
empowering them.
Michelle.
Because
It sounds very similar to the speech I give at the beginning of therapy,
yeah,
which is, part equal parts instilling hope and, setting up the expectation that there will be some effort and discomfort. But both of those things are important. You have to
that's
start with
very
hope if you want to make a change. And then incrementally, if you do start to see a change, that's positive reinforcement. You're like, oh, wow, this actually works. And then that will keep you motivated.
Hmm.
Yeah, very, very much so. If you're going to step outside your comfort zone, which is where all progress happens, I think there's some definition. If you keep doing the same and expect something to change, that's definition of insanity. So all progress happens outside the comfort zone. But for you to be willing to go there, it requires motivation. And it requires a motivation to be consistent. It's not enough just to be motivated on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, right? You have to be motivated consistently and be consistent with what you're doing. So that's a lot what, you know, I help people with, because they come in here weekly. I remind them of their health benefits. I make sure they're on track. We talk about all the benefits they're experiencing. So it's like a refresher of the reason why they're doing it on a consistent basis. It's a journey to get to healthy weight. If someone has to lose 60, 70, 80 pounds, that obviously doesn't happen in a week. But so what I do initially is basically kind of what you were saying, Michelle. I would, especially the ones that have a longer journey, I have them write down the cons of if they keep going in the same direction. I have them write down 5 cons, 5 physical downsides of where you will be in 10, 20, 30 years if you do not pay attention to it. And that's anything from healthcare costs, being incapacitated, having to be on a bunch of medication, feeling horrible about yourself. For a woman, you're just hiding and covering yourself up. You don't get to feel like a woman anymore, and ultimately chronic diseases and all of it, versus the flip side of it. Look at the positives of getting to where you want to be, which both on an emotional level of the joy of being able to walk around in a bikini on vacation and feel good, feel amazing, like you have nothing to hide, to be able to feel like you're a role model for your kids, for your grandkids, for whatever, to be able to go on a hike when you're 80 years old because you've taken care of yourself and enjoyed life to the fullest. I try to paint this picture of the contrast of how much it matters, your lifestyle, and then obviously focus on the positives and have them do these daily exercises where they see that in their mind as part of the journey. And then as they go, I will, let's say someone has been on my program for a few months, I'll have them hold these, fat models that so they can kind of see how much have come off their body. So they get to celebrate success as they move along to keep them motivated. Motivation is a huge part of this. And then eventually the results are so big that it just motivates them to keep they're self-motivated.
I mean, if you think about it, we call it, I guess, setting ourselves up for success, but ultimately the work you do now, middle age or even younger, that's all going to pay off towards end of life. When you talked about healthcare costs, you talk about mental and physical health, but like you really, really want to be set up with a healthy body for that older period of time when you're going to need that built-in equity you've put in your body and in your health. So
absolutely, and that's the hard part because people, we live in this short-term type of thing. If
sure.
I don't feel amazing, my life is flipped around in 1 month, what's the point? I'll worry about that when I get older. And it's the same, I think, even like some cases with finance, a lot of people don't want to save, don't want to think about that. I have a good role model in my father when it comes to that, who's 83 and who still, hikes, will go on 12, 14-mile hikes in altitude with me and my son, so his grandchild, and really fully enjoy life to the fullest as if he was 34 years old. That didn't happen. He didn't start doing that when he was 80, so he could be like that when he was 83. Mm-hmm. That's decades of taking care of your body. So to your point, Kelly, absolutely. Like when you suddenly, when it hits you, oh, you're diabetic now. Oh, there's your first heart attack. Oh, there's the cancer or whatever. That's been brewing there for decades. So you set it's like an investment in your future to have quality of life your whole life. When you eat and live healthy, when you have a healthy lifestyle, yes, the likelihood is that you will live longer. It's highly likely. But more importantly, you'll have better what's called a health span, that you actually have a full, functional, enjoyable life most of the time that you're on this planet, that you're not spending the last couple of decades incapacitated in a wheelchair on a pill and not able to fully enjoy life. That's what's happening a lot here. And it is about that. And that is a little bit the hard part, to get people to realize the importance of if you're even in your 30s, 40s, 50s, is what you're doing now, the behavior you're setting up now, it's what's going to determine the quality you have while you're on this planet. And as far as, we know it's cool if there's nice things afterwards, we have strong faith and things, but we don't know. The only thing we know about is the one life we have here. And why not make that with as high quality as possible?
This has been really fascinating hearing your point of view, especially dealing with like the psychology behind eating.
I've also found this very fascinating. So I've just been listening and absorbing the information.
Yeah, I mean, it's, in many ways, like you said, I've studied psychology, but I'm not a psychologist, and I'm just kind of doing what I feel and saying things that I feel are going to help people and what they need to hear. Food it's for many, it's so embedded in their comfort of life that with many, when you start addressing not have this or take out sugar, there's a real resistance that you can feel. It's like, wow, this is an addiction. That's even just proves it even more. The resistance is like telling an alcoholic to stop drinking.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of a lot, because I've worked in the recovery community for, illicit substances, but there's just so many parallels. The way you were talking about it is almost exactly the way we talk about other addictions.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's an addiction. Yeah. It's actually, if you look at the American Psychiatric Association definition of a substance that's addictive, it's something that you develop a tolerance to. And there's no doubt. Like if you were used to having maybe blueberries for comfort after a long day, and then you start having, I don't know, warm apple pie with ice cream, you're not going back to the blueberries. If you think that as far as the impact on your health is the same, you want more of the same, right? So you develop kind of a tolerance and you want more and more of it. And if you've had it regularly for a long time and you pull it out completely, you go through withdrawals, just like any drug. You can, on an emotional level, you can feel, anxiety, depressed. Physical level, headaches, shaky, hypoglycemic. And then here's another part of the definition. If you're going through all these withdrawal symptoms, you're feeling headachy, weak, low mood, down, all of this, and you eat a brownie and it takes away the symptoms, that's actually another definition of an addictive substance. So it fits all the categories of an addictive substance.
Yep.
So yeah, very much so. It is, and to, people for this, they have to be ready for it. I can't, I'll see people just out and about in life that I'm like, I wish I could get to you and turn your life around so much. But, something has to trigger it. They have to come to me already motivated. Like I'm just sick of this. I want to change things. And then I add to that motivation, and my job is to keep it alive to get to that goal.
Speaking of you, Christian Middleton he's a health coach and a chiropractor, and he owns Viking Health in Encino, California, a holistic weight loss and wellness center. Christian, where can people find you?
Well, they can find me at vikinghealth.net. And we also have an Instagram presence at Viking Health. So any of those, you'll see some testimonials, you'll see some success stories, and you'll have all the contact info you need if you guys anyone wants to get in touch with us.
This has been great, Christian. Really appreciate you coming. I mean, it's just fascinating. When you were talking about the heart and explaining what the heart does, my jaw was dropping. It's just like, oh my God. It's so incredible. The human body is so incredible, and we take it for granted.
Yeah, it's hidden by the skin. The only time we may be aware of it is if, like, you're running and you're like, oof, my heart rate, you feel the heart beating more, right? That's the only time, but it's doing this all the time, just slightly less intensity, so we don't think about it at all. But the amount of work that organ is doing just for us to have this experience called life is quite amazing.
Well, also, I know not everyone responds the same way to different information, but you used the words common sense earlier in the show. And you also presented us with a lot of facts. And I know for myself, common sense and facts are the way to reach me, because that does change my perspective and motivate me.
It's so true.
Yeah, common sense. Look at what we're meant for. And it's still possible to adjust to somewhere close to that in modern day society. You just have to kind of switch your perspective a little bit.
I love it. Great talk, Christian. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. Yeah.
Thanks for having me on here.
I'm really glad we had Christian on, and Christian and I go back a really long ways. I've known him for over 20 years, and I just saw him recently and just told him I was just really impressed with his evolution in the time I've known him. He's just, in terms of his professionally as well as personally, he's just really, really become somebody I really admire. But that said, I think in this episode, he talks a lot about the things that I think are really important for listeners, which is how diet and exercise can affect you mentally as well as emotionally, and how everything's kind of connected, really, Michelle, if you think about it.
Well, this is one of those shows where I really hope listeners will listen more than once, because there were so many great moments. Like, he said some deep stuff that I'm going to have to go back and listen, because I was like, that hit me. Okay, that hit me. That's fascinating. And I would hate to just kind of forget or move on from that stuff. I really want to absorb it. So I hope other people will do the same.
Yeah.
And like we talked about at the end of the show, just the balance he had between just really kind of shocking facts that, yes, are common sense, but we don't think about. The way he put those things, along with acknowledging the psychology behind having to change, given the society we live in. Like, just there's so many barriers to change when it comes to wellness, whether it's emotional well-being or physical well-being.
My biggest takeaway is where he talked about not blaming yourself. It's not your fault.
Me too. When he said that, it was kind of like that Goodwill Hunting moment. I wanted to like weep and fall into his arms.
Yeah.
Um, but that coupled though with the information he gives, with the knowledge he puts down about why it's not your fault. When you zoom out to the macro level and understand everything that's working against you, the greed and the companies and the way we make food, the way we market food, the way it's so available, it just it really resonated with me.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been told when you go into a supermarket, you stick to the outside aisles because that's where all the fresh fruit and vegetables and fresh, I guess, meat, everything is on the outside. Everything on the inside is all processed foods. So, now, granted, that's not very realistic, but it still says a lot about the way these stores are strategically created. I also believe every day is a new day, right? So when you walk, you want to make a change in your life, you want to lose 30 pounds, but you don't think you can. Well, you can. And I think, first of all, don't worry about what you did before. Concentrate on what you can do now. And I think he kind of really illustrated that.
And don't think about losing 30 pounds. Think about losing 2 pounds or
Yeah.
making the smallest possible change so that it doesn't feel overwhelming, because we lose motivation super quick when we feel overwhelmed.
What's the saying? How do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time. Is
Yeah, right.
that?
Why anyone would want to eat an elephant is beyond me. It's disgusting, but they're really cool. But that
Yeah,
said, yeah, it is baby steps. And look, you didn't put the weight on overnight. You're not going to lose it overnight. Okay, it's
right.
pretty. It's going to take. It's a process.
But what you just brought up too is having realistic expectations, which we tend not to have when it comes to, eating and fitness. We tend not to have realistic expectation when it comes to our partners and our relationships. I mean, this is a pervasive theme.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to get political, but it breaks my heart where we are politically, because remember when Michelle Obama was trying to make school meals more nutritious?
Mm-hmm.
And because it was her, there was a segment of the population that was very much against it. But if you were
Sure.
to ask any parent, like, should kids have nutritious school lunches? I would hope the answer is yes. That feels like a no-brainer to me. But, people got emotional about it rather than, having the common sense that Christian was talking about. But
Yeah.
that's a great example of just the, industry working against us. The school lunches my kids get are horrifying. What they
Mm-hmm.
pass off as vegetable, what they present as like a balanced meal, just is insane to me. It makes me so angry. But that's
Yeah.
because, that's what schools can afford because they're underfunded, and that's what's available to them, and that's what the industries are putting out there.
Well, think about that's true, and think about even like the smoking industry for years and years and years. There was that battle
Yeah,
against them, and how they said it wasn't dangerous. And the pharmaceutical industry, same thing. I mean, there's been drugs that
big
have been,
time.
but this is pushed on consumers nonstop.
When Christian was talking about, how it's an addiction, I was taking painkillers for an injury at one point, and the side effects of like when the painkiller goes away, fades, and then I was like getting a headache and all that. So I'm like, oh, I need more painkiller. So again,
Mhm.
that hit. These things are designed so that you would want more of those things.
I will openly admit to a coffee addiction, and if I don't have coffee, I'll get a headache. But study after study has shown that 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day is actually good for you. It's got antioxidants. So from that standpoint, I will continue to drink coffee. I don't know.
Yeah, it's important too to pay attention to the source of the information. I'm always wary of whenever like any type of food is vilified. The whole like, I don't know who pissed off the potato people, but when everyone's like potatoes are bad for you, or studies that come out that say a certain thing is like a super, what do they call it? Super food.
Superfood, right?
I'm always like, who funded the study? Who's putting the study out? Who are the scientists? So like being an informed electorate in every sense of the word, whether you're talking about politics or you're talking about um, whatever information you're getting is important. Because like you said, legitimate studies have a different view than maybe ad campaigns do on certain things.
Remember how they said eggs were
Yeah,
bad for
that's
you?
another good example. Yeah.
And now, I mean, you don't hear that anymore. I eat an egg a day, and they say it's good for you. And it has protein. It has bunch of minerals you need. So you never hear that anymore.
Right.
Does it raise your cholesterol? Maybe, but I don't think dangerously. Anyway, I really want to get Christian on here because I thought it'd be a really fascinating conversation. And he's a great talker, and he didn't disappoint me. So
No,
I
not at
hope.
all. Yeah, he was amazing. And his passion comes through. That's the other issue. That I don't know why I'm harping on this for this particular show. I think because he had such great insight and information. It's like this happens because of our social media addiction. You just are scrolling through, you're like, oh, that's a life-changing piece of information. Next, and it just doesn't get absorbed. We're so distracted and multitasking, which is a myth anyway. That's not something your brain can actually do. I feel like we hear a lot, there's a lot coming at us, and what we actually take in and absorb is so little. I hope people will really listen to this show carefully. I don't know. I feel like I'm cranky today or sassy.
Coming in
I
hot.
don't know what it is. And the danger of what we normalize. I can think of so many examples, especially in this country, of things that we normalize that aren't okay, that are not okay. Sorry, I wasn't articulating there. And our brains do try to make sense of information, and they do try and figure out what's the baseline, where's the threat, what's the category here for, so I can make sense of the world. And so when we normalize certain things in our culture and they just become the way things are, it's so hard to break that habit. The whole point of normalizing is to say, this is okay. This is how it is. And so to train your brain or to break that pattern in your brain to say, actually, it's not okay to eat 150 pounds of sugar a year. That's a deprogramming that's super hard.
Speaking of programming,
Nice.
be sure to follow us, program that in your brain.
Yeah.
Email us at theunrelatingpodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on Instagram. We'd love to have you on as a guest.
When we have folks on who are passionate about something or struggling with something, either way, it's a fruitful conversation.
If you're struggling with family, friends, or coworkers, in a bad relationship and wondering what to do, or you want a relationship and to set yourself up for success, then we want to talk to you. So make your appointment on Unrelating. To be a guest, ask a question, or recommend a topic, drop us an email at theunrelatingpodcast@gmail.com. And be sure to follow us on Instagram or Facebook.